What's good, YouTube? You're back on S Motorsports. Today we're going to be installing a strut brace on the Camaro. Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Today, like I said, I'm going to be installing a strut brace, and I will say I never thought I was going to be installing one because I always told myself I don't need a strut brace. I know everyone's going to say already, you don't need a strut brace on the 6th gen Camaro because, you know, the engineers decided that it wasn't good enough or it wasn't necessary, and it was probably a cost trade-off, you know. But looking at, if you guys are on the Facebook forums and stuff like that for the Camaros, you'll see it seems like it worries me that there's a lot of strut tower cracks going on. And what does a strut brace do? A strut brace ties together the two shock towers to basically transfer load from one side to another. This is aluminum fatigues. So if we can brace this up anymore and just help it out a little bit to reduce that fatigue, you know, in my mind, that's why I could justify getting a strut tower brace. Is it gonna solve the strut tower cracking issues? Probably, maybe, it might help. So that's my logic. So what I picked up is an eBay version, so it was pretty cheap, honestly. And you know, it looks pretty decent. It looks probably the same. It's probably made in the same place as the GM Performance ones. So we're gonna install this today, see how it looks. Obviously I got the LT2 Intake, so that's a little different than other people. So I'm going to, you know, probably space this up a little bit with some washers and make it look nice and tie up my fuel line going across for the E85. I might have to relocate that back a little bit, but should be pretty simple. So let's have at her. So like I said, I picked up an eBay strut tower brace. As you can see, I mean, it's probably made in the same exact factory. You sure about that? The welds are... You sure about that? Okay. There's a couple of them that were maybe a little questionable, burning through into this cast aluminum part. You know, the finish is okay. I'm probably gonna polish up this aluminum a little bit, make it look a little bit nicer. You could paint it as well. I decided I think I'm just gonna leave it raw aluminum, but yeah, I mean, honestly, like I said, I think it's probably made in the same factory. This should help. According to Chevrolet Performance, you know, part that they sell, they say it stiffens up the strut tower braces by 47% in lateral deflection. So that's a pretty big improvement. So like I said, justification is I'm sure Chevrolet didn't want to include this on every Camaro SS if they didn't have to, because even if this cost them 20 bucks to make or $10 to make, you know, $10 over how many thousands of cars adds up. So if they didn't need it, they weren't going to put it on. All right, so the first step is we're going to remove one bolt here from this diagonal brace, the closest one, and then we're going to be removing this top bolt on each side for the struts. Ooh, careful there, don't lean on that. But yeah, so let's just take these out. I do have the catch can, the Mishimoto catch can as well, so will probably be one less washer on this side for the spacing to work out. And this is a 13mm socket. Those are honestly pretty loose. I'm gonna check the torques on those as well. So the torque on these is supposed to be 16 foot-pounds, so curious. yeah, that was loose. I mean, not much, but they weren't torqued. Huh. Yeah, all of those were loose. Note to self, check the torque on those. 16 foot-pounds. All right, now we can just place the strut tower brace in place to see how it's gonna look. Ah, God, I gotta stop leaning on that bumper. But it just goes like this. Pretty simple. So, what are we sitting on? Yeah, a little bit of some spacing issues, but like we're sitting down already. And that actually clears the LT2 intake. So I'm literally only gonna have to use like one washer, because I mean, there's probably a 1/4 inch of clearance already to the LT2 intake, which I'm kind of surprised by. But I will have to use a washer, if nothing else, just to even it out for the Mishimoto catch can to make that even side to side. But yeah, let's throw some washers in there. I did want to say as well, I am not reusing the stock bolts, as I wanted them to be long enough, thinking I was going to have to run spacers. But yeah, I do have a couple different lengths. These are M8 bolts, so I'll let you know what length I end up using. They do include bolts to use with this strut tower brace, but I would definitely not recommend using them, as they look like absolute junk. All right guys, so what I picked up is just went to my local hardware store and got some 10.9 metric fasteners. These are M8 by 1.25. I think I picked up 30 millimeters long bolts. I think that'll work perfect for these, as it's you know, you're trying to take up the depth for the new bracket. As you can see, this was the stock bolt that went into the shock there, and you can see how much, you know, it's just a little bit longer. You probably could go 35 on that as well, but I think 30 should work. And then I also picked up some new longer M8 60 millimeter bolts for this position on each side, because the bolts they include, they didn't even have a marking on here, which tells me they are junk. So these are actually 10.9 bolts. And I ended up putting just 2 washers underneath on this side to take up the distance to make up for on that side with the Mishimoto catch can. So this just has 2 washers just in this position, and everything else seems to line up good. And honestly, I still have a 1/4 inch of clearance underneath the manifold, so I think I'm gonna run it just like that. It shouldn't be an issue. So I'm just repositioning my zip ties here for the fuel line in the back. I have some little push clips here, and I'm just making sure that this kind of pulls this line back so we don't have any contact there while it's operating. Boom, just like that, it is installed. That's probably one of the easiest installs I've done. It is literally just plug and play. So you do have to torque these bolts to 16 foot-pounds is what the instructions say, and in the manuals for the Camaro as well, it says 16 foot-pounds. So not an issue, that's a pretty low torque. Like I said, hopefully you can see this. I do have, it's really hard to see, but there is probably like a 1/4 inch of clearance. You can kind of see my thumb, finger almost goes in between that. I did tie up the fuel rail back a little bit with some clips, so I have some space there, so this doesn't bounce and hit that. Overall, pretty simple install, pretty easy, and hopefully this helps a little bit to support these shock towers a little bit more, so I don't have any cracking issues in the future. And if it helps a little bit, I think it was worth it, because obviously I kind of got the cheap eBay one, but honestly it'll do the job what it needs to do. by bracing those two together. Even though it was a lower cost unit, it'll still work good. So I'm happy with it. All right guys, that's it for today. Make sure to subscribe and give this video a big thumbs up on your way out, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.